In the modern age, one of the most prominent yet underappreciated sports is that of swim. However, when we're looking at the Fort Collins and Northern Colorado swim scene, we have one of the most prominent and successful when we're looking at Colorado as a whole. One of the rising stars in this game is a freshman from Liberty Common High School, Josie Stahl. I had the opportunity to speak with both Josie and her coach, Rob Huey, right here at the Eudora Pool and Ice Center, just off of Prospect. The Eagles over at Liberty Common High School prove that birds of a feather swim together. When we were talking on email, you mentioned that this is a very, very young program. Yes. I believe I may have been a sophomore in high school when Liberty Common started the swim team. So how did you first get involved?
Well, I have always been a teacher at Liberty Common School, so I've been teaching there for a long time. And concurrent to that, I coached one of the large high schools in town, Rocky Mountain High School. And there started to be some interest at Liberty to start a high school program. And our athletic director had asked me for a few years what my level of interest would be. And I got to a point where I felt like, we could potentially have a viable team at Liberty Common, and was willing to make that transfer over as far as the coaching part goes, because I thought it'd be really cool to coach people that I taught as they come up through the grades, some of my past students, and we're ready to start a program.
Very good. And I mean, when you're looking at it, there is a lot of, there are now 7 public high schools, 7 high schools in Fort Collins that all have a lot of interest around them. So how do you attract people to come to Liberty Common and say, this is where you need to be, this is the best place for you?
Right. I'm not really sure that we do too much as far as recruiting people into Liberty Common with the intent of swimming. We're mostly targeting people within our school, to join our swim program. I think our school itself attracts people to it because the academics that we have, we're pretty rigorous high school and pretty successful with our students. So I think that draws people into our school. And then it's our job as coaches then to try to attract them into our teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part. That's the first part of student athlete, right? As a student.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Something that I've always wondered about, and one of my friends who she swims at Sarah Lawrence College, she's always wondered, from a coach's perspective, how do you decide? How do you put together a relay schedule? Like how do you decide? Okay, I'm going to have Abby, I'm going to have Josie, I'm going to have Addison. Like how do you put that together?
Relays are really fun. I like the strategic part of putting good lineups together. So it really depends going from meet to meet. I mean, obviously on championship meets, we're just trying to find our best 4 swimmers that we can put together on our relay. Now we have 3 relays to put together, and swimmers with 2 individual events can only be on 2 of those relays. So the goal is to try to figure out, how I can get the most strategic lineup for all 3 relays as a team so that we can be most successful. So we look at what their strengths are as far as their strokes go, who does a little bit better leading off, who does better with relay exchanges, where we could maybe get a competitive advantage on the other teams as far as going first, second, third, or fourth, and just kind of consider all of those aspects.
That makes sense. And I mean, when we're talking about organizing a championship level relay, quite successful at this past league championship. I believe it was something like 575 points, which I remember when I read that, I think it was Wellington's coach who was next to me. She was like, wait, really?
Yeah.
So how did it feel to capture that league championship in such an extremely competitive conference like the Patriot League?
Yeah, we were really excited to do that. And in regards to the points and going back to the relays, this was our first year that we've ever won all 3 of the relays. And relays score a lot of points. They score double the amount of individual points. So
wow.
That's kind of a strategic point there of trying to be successful in all those relays. But it was really exciting. Since we're a pretty new program, going from Berthoud was kind of one of the big teams that was a really big competitor when we started. That we've always tried to swim our best against them. to not only win the conference championship, but do it in a pretty big fashion the way we did this year. It was really exciting for us.
Yeah, and I mean, Berthoud, they've got a lot of talent over there. But when we're looking at it, Liberty Common, you said young program, but
Right.
this is a really young team that came out. I believe it was only Abby, really, that was the primary senior at that league championship. With such a young squad, could you tell before the season that you had something like a special team on your hands, or was it kind of as the season developed?
I had some anticipation to it because I knew of some really good freshmen coming in, a sophomore that didn't swim for us last year, so I knew we were bringing on, a pretty good amount of people. I was a little bit surprised in a good way with the depth that we were able to bring this year, especially to that conference championship meet. I think our depth really paid off in getting so many points and having just a significant number of people not only making finals, but making A finals as well. So that was a little bit of a surprise, definitely in a positive way.
Yeah, very much. And I remember at that championship meet, there was just again and again and again, especially on the podium, because I was half tempted to be like, who's next, Liberty Common. And I mean, you guys represented very, very well at state in terms of numbers. I know a couple of teams where they sent maybe 6 girls to state, but you guys, you didn't have the whole team, but you may as well have. Right. Were you anticipating bringing that depth to state and being able to? What did you think of the turnout at state?
We definitely had some surprises. We had a couple girls at the beginning of the season that I didn't think would be at that state level. And then once we got to state, we had some girls make finals that didn't necessarily anticipate. For example, we had one girl who was a senior named Kayla, and she was a beginner swimmer last year. So she had 1 year under her belt, and then she came in this year and at the conference championship made state in the 50 freestyle. Dang. And so that was a surprise to get her in there, a good surprise.
Heck yeah.
And then we ended up at state having 13 swims in finals, which was pretty significant. That was the most that we've had as a team.
Now, I know some teams that go like 3-4 years without anybody making it to finals.
Right.
So. Right. And you talk a lot about, you brought up Kayla, you look at Abby as the conference swimmer of the year. Yeah. How would you say that level of leadership translate to providing that success, to being able to get that many people into swimming in the final round? And how does that leadership influence that?
I think they lead by example, and they lead by enthusiasm. Those are actually 2 swimmers that only swim high school swimming, which is kind of rare to get to that state level when you swim 3 months out of the year and only swim high school. Yeah. And so I think them, with their leadership and their drive in the pool and their enthusiasm, combined with some of our young swimmers, freshmen and sophomore, who do swim year-round, I think it just brings a really good mix of getting everybody excited and working hard and working together as a team.
Very good. It worked.
Yeah, it did.
And when we're looking at swim as a wider sport, there's a lot of different elements to it. You have so many different events. You have a lot of different personalities coming together. Different, as we talked about earlier, you have a lot of strategy surrounding different, especially events like relay. When you're looking at different meets across the state, geographically, how do you alter your mindset knowing which different venue you're going to be competing at? Like down at Mountain View, or I don't know if you have meets here at Epic, or if you were to go down to Manitou Springs to, you have all those different atmospheres. So how do you plan for that?
Right. That's something that you kind of have to think about ahead of time. You got to think about what are the challenges of swimming in that venue, what are the advantages of swimming there. So for example, when we went to VMAC, which is where state is located, I've had some experience before where experienced swimmers struggle with their flip turn at the wall because the depth perception is a little bit different at that pool. So, and knowing that and anticipating that, preparing your swimmers for that. Concurrently, or that's the wrong word, but in a different scenario, we had a dual meet at Eaton, and it's at their middle school, and it's just a small 5-lane pool. There's no warm-up, cool-down area, and so the atmosphere is really different, and you have to, be aware and make sure your swimmers are aware, like there's no cool-down opportunities, the meet's gonna run pretty quickly, spectators are right there, and just kind of little factors that could make a difference in somebody's swim.
Yeah, it's my my friend Hannah, who I talked about earlier. She talked a lot about the different flip turns and like how the different atmospheric elements can affect such a what from the outside looks like such a small part of it. And when you're looking at, you mentioned the spectator side of it. Like as you said, at Eaton, the spectators are right there, screaming in your face. Yeah. What impact would you say having those spectators has on, I mean, not just on the swimmers, but on you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the swimmers, they have a big impact. Sometimes you go to a dual meet and there's not a lot of people there's not a lot of cheering, it's kind of quiet, so the energy level is really low. And then you go to a conference championship meet, or you go to the state meet, and not only are the swimmers and the teammates hyped up for everybody, which brings some positive mindset to the swimmers, but then you've got the spectators up there cheering really, really loud, and I think it motivates the swimmers. It's encouraging to the swimmers, and it does the same thing for the coaches as well. I think we get a lot more excited when we're in that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's always better playing in front of a sold-out crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And I mean, swim is a growing sport. It's one where, at least I'm hearing more and more about it every year as time goes on. Let's say that you were put in charge of the world committee on swim, and you were in charge of finding a way to promote it, to make it a bigger spectator sport.
Right.
What changes would you make, if any, to increase that?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So let me kind of think through this a little bit. Where I see the biggest excitement for swimming is around Olympic years. So the Olympics are broadcast in the summertime. Swimming tends to be pretty highly watched at that level, the Olympics, and there tends to be a lot of excitement. Club teams, like our local team here, tend to grow immediately afterwards. So just finding a way to continue that type of, find other venues or things that can really attract the attention of people. I think that can help grow the sport and the spectators and bringing people in, because there's plenty of historical Michael Phelps swims and the big relay swim years ago that non-swimmers hear about and talk about, and things like that continue to get published, I think, and draw some more interest in swimming as a spectator sport.
Yeah, I mean, Phelps is a cultural icon at this point.
Right.
And this makes me wonder, what's your personal past with the sport? How did you get involved with swim? I'm assuming first as a participant, but then how'd you decide you wanted to add coaching into that as well?
Yeah. So, I grew up swimming. I grew up in Southern California, and when I was swimming in high school, it occurred to me at one point in time, hey, I'd like to be a swim coach at one point. So my senior year of high school, I actually wrote down every single workout that we did for the entire year. I went home after practice, wrote down every workout, put it in a file. Went to college, got a career, did some other stuff, but I kept those workouts that whole time. And then my kids got involved in swimming, summer club. They swam here for FAST. And when they were about probably middle school and elementary school, one of the FAST coaches saw me in the stands waiting to pick up my kids and said, hey, I know you have a swim background. There's an opening up over at Rocky Mountain High School. Oh. Do you want to coach? And I'm like, oh, I have not been involved at that level for a long time, and so it was a little bit intimidating, but ultimately I said, yeah, I want to give it a try. And I pulled out my old workouts and realized pretty quickly that the style of training then was pretty different from the style of training now, but I still have those, and I gave it a shot, and that was 17 years ago, and
Oh,
so
dang.
I'm still coaching. Yep.
Very nice. And I mean, 17 years is, I mean, that's a heck of a career.
Yeah, yeah.
What was your favorite moment during your time at Rocky Mountain?
So when I first started coaching at Rocky Mountain, we were a pretty small program. We would have one really fast swimmer on our team, and they would make state. We'd be fast enough to make 2 or 3 relays. One guy would go to finals, and then that would be it. And we were like that for about 5 or 6 years. And my last 4 years of the program, we were just really able to build it up quantity-wise, excitement-wise. We had a lot more club year-round swimmers on our team. And at the 5A level, both for boys and girls, we were able to break the top 5 in the state for 5A. And we ended up having, I think, in my time there coaching at Rocky, and it was mostly all in my last 4 years, I probably had 15 or 16 All-Americans, which is top 100 times in the country. So it's super exciting to go from having one person make state to like having a whole group and being a big contributor, at that 5A level.
I'm still kind of processing some schools, like my high school, we only had one person that registered as an All-American, let alone.
Right, yeah. Well, the All-American status was fantastic when we started achieving some of those. And, a lot of that's contributed to the fact that they're year-round swimmers. They train really seriously with their club teams, and then they were also concurrently swimming high school as well.
And that's actually something that I've written a couple of articles about that in the past. And what do you think you mentioned it there briefly, that they are able to have that year-round development if they're in club as well.
Right.
But how would you say having that club aspect of it can improve somebody when it comes to, not just swim, but in terms of personally as well?
For swimming, to really get to that top tier of swimming, you really need to swim club or year-round or more than 3 months, because the high school season is so short. And again, we have plenty of success with people, doing well at conference, making state, that just swim for that 3 months of the high school season. But really, to go to that next level, the club is really what's going to get you there. They're training 9-10 times a week, really intense training, and that's just going to get them to the higher level, definitely.
That makes sense. It's for that top 5 to 10% of the athletes.
Yeah.
And so you go from Rocky Mountain, you have all these All-American level swimmers.
Yeah.
You take the position here at Liberty Common. And you find yourself here this year. During these past 5 seasons, what's been an unexpected challenge that you've come across that either you've enjoyed or that's been something that you've taken the opportunity to grow from?
I think I could kind of answer a little bit both ways. What I've really enjoyed is I've always had new swimmers coming into the sport and trying it out and being successful and enjoying it, but I think I see that more at Liberty because, one, I think we have a population of people that like to take risks athletically and want to be involved, and so they choose swimming to do that in a lot of cases. And it's just really rewarding. Just the first week of practice, we had this with girls season. I have this right now. We started boys season on Monday, and I have a lane of swimmers that can't make it across the pool for a 25. And by the end of the season, 2 of those girls at our conference championship meet in the 100 breaststroke made A finals, and they could barely make it across the pool for about a week or 2 weeks.
Dang.
And to go from that to just being successful at swimming 100, and then not only that, but making the A finals at the conference, that's really, really, really rewarding.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I think one of the challenges I have specific to our school is that we're a really high expectation school and really rigorous. And we're a charter school, so people choose to come in here. And there's a little bit of this fluctuation of, people coming to Liberty and then choosing to go somewhere else, and that's just kind of part of the game with the school that we're at. And didn't have that experience, at a public high school where if they're there their freshman year, unless they move out of town, they're going to be there their senior year. So that's been an unexpected challenge.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, you're competing with all the schools in the area. And well, what's your favorite team to compete against?
In our area, I really like to compete against Thompson Valley. So Thompson Valley is not in our conference, but I always schedule a meet against them. They've, back probably in the early 2000s, I mean, they were 4A state champions for many years. You go to their pool and they have state championship banners all around there. But I really enjoy going against them because they tend to be the most competitive dual meet team in our area. I mean, we go to city meet here, and we swim against the big 5A teams, and they're significantly faster than us. And then we have some teams in our conference that we're significantly faster than. But Thompson Valley, it's always a close meet from the beginning all the way to the end.
Yeah, if there's one thing I know about Thompson Valley from covering them, it's that they are tough. It's... And I mean, granted, most of the time that I've covered them has been football, so, most of the time has been football, but a lot of, what would you say makes swim different from other team sports, like a football, a basketball, volleyball, soccer? What makes swim unique?
I think swim has a unique combination of, it's individualistic, and I think a lot of people come into swimming thinking of it as an individual sport, but it's also very team-oriented as well, especially at the high school level. So you're competing for yourself, you're competing to improve, you're competing for best times, you're competing potentially to win or win your heat, but at the same time you're competing to contribute to your team overall. So we have that dual aspect of the individual and the team together, and I really enjoy that about swimming. And there's just so many successes. Like, you don't have to win to be successful at swimming. You could cut a little bit of time, or you could do a flip turn in the meet for the first time, or you can improve your technique or your stroke count. And there's just so many ways to be successful in swimming.
I really like that. I never really quite had the endurance for it, but it's a really fascinating one to look at. And then you have the different angles that you have to take for dive as well. Yeah. Like, I had a friend that used to do dive, and I went to their senior night meet, and I was just in awe, where I was like, how do you do that with your... When was the last time you had one of those moments as a coach where you were just awestruck at something that somebody had done in the water?
Honestly, at our state championship meet with Josie Stahl over here, winning state at the 100 breaststroke as a freshman. That was just an amazing race to watch.
Yeah. What were the thoughts going through your mind at that time? Where I mean, obviously you break to the finals, and all of a sudden, at that point, it's anybody's game. What was going through your head, like, from the moment that it was announced that from the end of the previous race to, holy crap, we have the third state champion in school history?
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to prelims, she was seated next to the top seed in prelims, and the top seed was a senior, and the top seed came in seated 4 seconds better than her high school best time. It wasn't her best time, but it was her high school best time. And the seed time from the other girl means that girl did swim that at a high school meet as opposed to a club meet. And so just the fact, that Josie had that motivation and drive to swim with that senior stroke for 75 and then pull off the last wall and win pretty significantly. So that, one, brought a lot of excitement going into finals, but two, we all kind of knew that Josie was the target of all the people around her as the top seed in the middle lane. So definitely going into that, like I was nervous. I'm probably just as nervous as she was, or maybe more, and excited, and hopeful. And I knew that she was a competitor, so I knew she had a great shot at bringing it home and winning. And she was successful with that, so I was definitely excited about that.
Yeah, and I mean, really gives a good example for the team
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings us, as we're getting towards the end, I am wondering, what are your personal expectations for the team moving forward? Like, you have a pretty young squad. You have a lot of girls with, conference championship medals hanging on their trophy case.
Yeah.
What do you think is the target for Liberty Common moving into next year?
So first of all, I think one of my biggest goals is just mostly character goals. I think swimming correlates really well with character traits that aren't just about swimming, but can work with you later in life. So my goals are, when they join the team, to just understand and appreciate commitment and teamwork and cooperation and being supportive of other people. So I think once people join our team, those are the things I'm looking for in those swimmers. And then from a competitive standpoint, obviously I'm always competitive, so I want us to be as competitive as possible and hope for us to continue and get another conference championship next year, more state championships in future years. And one of the big things that's been eluding us that we've been very close to 3 consecutive years is to get a relay state champion.
Okay.
So our 200 free relay has been in it for the last 3 years for winning. This year we got 5th place, but it was close between 5 teams within half a second between 5 different teams.
Half a second.
Yeah, half a second. Our anchor jumped in last out of all 5 of those teams, but she had the fastest split on the anchor out of all of them, tied with another girl. And we actually got second on that relay the last 2 years by 1/10 of a second. So that's within our grasp of just finding a little extra to get a relay championship in there too would be really exciting.
Well, hey, my fingers are crossed for you.
Thank you.
4 crosses for 4th time a charm.
Yep, absolutely.
And is there anything else that you would want the people of Fort Collins and Northern Colorado to know about this program that you've been heading?
I just think it's exciting to take a school that's really small, because we have about 350 high school students, and between our girls and our boys team, about 20% of our students participate in swim and dive. And many of those are new swimmers. Some of them, like I said, are high school only. We got a handful of people that swim year-round, and just, be supportive of our program and kind of appreciate how hard they work to attain the successes that they've had so far.
Well, that's very good. And fingers crossed that, again, you can win that relay title next year, but for the continued success of Liberty Common Swim.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.